Step outside for a second and take a hard look at the wood around you. Not casually really look at it. The deck that's gone dull and splintered. The fence turning gray and brittle under the sun. That old table sitting in the corner, once rich and warm, now dry and lifeless. Most people see damage. They assume age has won. They assume replacement is the only answer. But that assumption is recent. For most of human history, people didn't throw wood away when it weathered. They restored it. They understood something we've largely forgotten, that wood doesn't just decay randomly. It dries out, it oxidizes, it opens its grain to the elements, and if you know how to reverse that process, you can bring it back. There is a formula for doing exactly that. It's not a modern branded solution in a plastic container, but a three-part mixture rooted in centuries of observation and trial. It doesn't coat the surface, doesn't hide the damage. It works its way into the structure of the wood itself and rebuilds its resilience from within. This isn't theory. It's practical chemistry that has been used by craftsmen, shipbuilders, and homeowners for generations. It's inexpensive, widely accessible, and brutally effective when used correctly. But it comes with a level of responsibility most modern products don't demand, and that's where the real lesson lies. What follows is not just a restoration method. It's a look at how people once solved problems using what they had, and what we can still learn from that mindset today. It's understanding why ancient craftsmen treated wood as something worth preserving. Long before industrial coatings and synthetic sealants existed, wood was one of humanity's most valuable materials. It built homes, carried goods across oceans, and formed the backbone of daily life. But it came with a constant problem. Exposure destroyed it. Rain swelled it. Sun cracked it. Fungi and insects broke it down. If left untreated, even the strongest timber would fail. Early civilizations didn't have laboratories, but they had time, observation, and necessity. One of the most important discoveries came from flax, a plant cultivated thousands of years ago. From its seeds came an oil that behaved differently than most natural substances. When applied to wood, it didn't sit on the surface. It soaked in, and over time, it hardened. What made this oil remarkable wasn't just that it protected wood. It became part of it. It filled microscopic pores and reinforced the structure from the inside. This wasn't a coating. It was a transformation. Across Europe and the Middle East, this oil became a standard treatment. Wooden tools lasted longer. Structures resisted, weather more effectively. Maritime cultures relied on it heavily because survival at sea demanded materials that could endure constant exposure. The principle was simple. Don't fight nature from the outside. Strengthen your materials from within so they can endure it. How industrial convenience quietly replaced long-term durability. The shift away from these traditional methods didn't happen because they stopped working. It happened because something faster came along. By the mid-20th century, synthetic finishes began dominating the market. They were easy to apply, required little understanding, and delivered immediate visual results. For homeowners, that convenience was hard to ignore. But these finishes introduced a different philosophy. Instead of penetrating the wood, they formed a rigid layer on top of it. At first, this looked like an improvement, smooth, glossy, and uniform. But wood is not static. It expands and contracts with temperature and moisture changes. That's where the weakness shows. When a surface coating can't move with the material beneath it, it eventually cracks. Once that happens, water gets trapped underneath. The damage accelerates. Peeling, blistering, and rapid deterioration follow. This is why so many outdoor surfaces require constant refinishing. Not because wood is inherently fragile, but because the method of protection doesn't align with how wood behaves. Traditional oil-based treatments took the opposite approach. They allowed the wood to remain flexible while reinforcing it internally. Maintenance was still required, but it was simpler and less destructive. The trade-off was time. And in a world driven by speed, time became the deciding factor. Breaking down the three-part formula that still works today, the restoration method at the center of this discussion relies on three components, each serving a specific role in the process. The first is boiled linseed oil. This is the core of the treatment. Unlike raw oil, which can take weeks to cure, boiled linseed oil has been modified to harden within a day or two. When applied, it penetrates deep into the wood structure and begins a chemical reaction with oxygen. This reaction creates a flexible internal network that strengthens the material and reduces moisture absorption. The second component is white distilled vinegar. While often overlooked, it plays a critical role in preparing the wood. Weathered surfaces develop a layer of oxidation and grime that blocks absorption. The mild acidity of vinegar breaks this layer down without damaging the underlying fibers. It effectively reopens the wood, allowing the oil to reach where it needs to go. The third ingredient is gum turpentine. This is what makes the mixture truly effective. As a natural solvent derived from tree resin, it thins the oil and increases its ability to penetrate. Without it, much of the oil would remain near the surface. With it, the mixture moves quickly and evenly into the grain. Combined in equal parts, these three elements create a solution that cleans, penetrates, and reinforces in a single application. Why this method works where surface coatings fail? To understand the effectiveness of this formula, you have to think at the level of structure rather than appearance. Surface coatings act like armor. They attempt to shield the wood from the outside. But once that armor is compromised, the protection fails quickly. This oil-based mixture works differently. It becomes part of the wood itself. Instead of forming a barrier, it alters how the material interacts with its environment. Moisture is less able to enter because the internal spaces are already filled. Expansion and contraction still occur, but the wood remains cohesive rather than cracking apart. The result is not a flawless surface, but a durable one. This is why the method has remained relevant for centuries. It doesn't rely on perfection. It relies on resilience. It's the overlooked danger that turns a simple project into a serious hazard. There is one aspect of this process that cannot be ignored, and it's where most people make critical mistakes. Linseed oil does not dry through evaporation. It cures through oxidation, and that reaction generates heat. Under normal conditions, that heat dissipates harmlessly. But when oil-soaked materials are compressed, especially rags, the situation changes completely. The heat becomes trapped. As the reaction continues, temperatures rise. If the heat cannot escape, it can reach ignition levels. This is not hypothetical. It has caused fires in workshops, homes, and industrial settings. The danger lies in how ordinary the setup appears. A used rag tossed into a pile doesn't look like a threat, but under the right conditions, it becomes one. The solution is straightforward but non-negotiable. After use, rags must either be laid out flat in an open, non-flammable area until fully hardened, or submerged in water inside a sealed metal container. Anything less introduces unnecessary risk. Understanding this is part of understanding the material itself. Traditional knowledge wasn't just about effectiveness, it was about respect for the processes involved, applying the formula in a way that actually restores the wood. Using this mixture doesn't require specialized tools or advanced skill, but it does require attention to detail. The wood should be free of loose debris before application. There's no need for aggressive sanding or chemical stripping in most cases. The vinegar component handles much of the surface preparation. Application is done with a cloth, working along the grain to ensure even penetration. The change is often immediate. Dry, faded wood begins to regain depth and color as the oil is absorbed. After allowing time for absorption, any excess must be removed. Leaving liquid on the surface doesn't improve protection, it creates inconsistency. The curing period is essential. This is when the internal transformation takes place. Rushing it undermines the entire process. A second application, once the first has fully cured, deepens the effect and strengthens the result. From there, maintenance becomes a matter of periodic reapplication rather than complete refinishing. Recognizing the limitations so you don't misuse the method. No technique is universal, and this one is no exception. It will not work on wood that is structurally compromised. If rot has already set in, the material itself has failed. No treatment can reverse that. It also cannot penetrate existing film finishes. Any surface coated with varnish or polyurethane must be stripped before this method can be effective. There's also the matter of color. Linseed oil darkens wood over time. For some applications, this is desirable. For others, it may not be. Understanding these limits is what separates effective use from frustration. The method is powerful, but it must be applied in the right context. What you're looking at here is more than a way to restore wood. It's a reminder of how much capability has quietly slipped out of everyday life. There was a time when maintaining your environment wasn't outsourced. It was understood. Now materials were repaired, not replaced. Processes were learned, not avoided. This formula represents that mindset. Simple, accessible, and grounded in real-world effectiveness. It doesn't rely on branding or complexity. It relies on understanding. The next time you see weathered wood, you'll know it isn't finished. It's just untreated. If this breakdown gave you something useful, something you can actually apply, then take it further. Put it into practice. Share it with someone who's been told replacement is their only option. And if you want more of these real, field-tested lessons pulled straight from history, make sure you subscribe and pass this along. Skills like this don't stay alive on their own. They survive because people keep using them.